Chiefs win.
Ooh.
26-7. Dominate. The Miami Sea Dolphins.
Dolphins in the
Wildcard game. What a big win. What's up, everybody? Kent Swanson, Matt Lane, Craig Stout here to celebrate the first playoff win of the year. Kansas City Chiefs absolutely dominate the Miami Dolphins. Vibes are high, Matthew. How you feeling?
You know, we're feeling good. The vibes are high. The Chiefs absolutely dominated the Dolphins from start to finish of this game. It was never really in doubt. And I think the way this was shaping up the week leading up to the game with the weather, the injuries of the Dolphins, a lot of people expected that. But here's the thing. The Chiefs hadn't done that to anybody all year. So to come out of a game where they were very clearly the better team on both sides of the ball and essentially every single facet, that was nice. It's been almost a full calendar year since we have got to see that. So that was really nice to see, Craig.
Hey, how about that Steve Spagnuolo defense? Yeah, you guys feel good about that defense?
Forget.
Feel good about them limiting one of the best offenses in yards per play in recent modern memory, just limiting them to nothing. Tua looking awful, just absolutely awful. Nobody on that Miami Dolphins offense wanted to be there. I understand the Miami Dolphins not wanting to be there because they were literally on the street, most of them, about a week ago. But this offense was largely intact, and it didn't matter. Oh, my goodness. I am riding high right now. This is wonderful. I can't wait to talk about this with you guys.
Yeah, that was I know like there's some underlying things that we'll still talk about that, you know, need to get addressed for this team to continue to move forward, but this is a winning formula in a lot of different ways for the Chiefs. You know, they put 26 points on the board. I know the red zone offense is something people are going to spend a lot of time about, but they also lived in the red zone. The Miami Dolphins, I don't believe got in the red zone once this entire game, if I remember correctly either. They had one lucky, explosive Tyreek Hill touchdown underthrown by Tua, and I don't think they got in the red zone the rest of the game.
No, they did not. They got to the 31-yard line on their third to last drive.
The Chiefs held them out of the red zone for the entirety of the game. Just an unbelievable performance from the defense, and obviously, you know, some things to clean up with, with some red zone offense, and we can talk about some of that stuff later. But I mean, they scored on all but one or two possessions, and one of those possessions was late in the game as they were running the clock out, I believe, or maybe the last two as they were running the clock off. Like I know, like we'd like to see more touchdowns, but 26 points on the board is going to be enough to win a lot of football games with this defense in the playoffs. So I think there's really just a lot to be excited about what we saw on both sides of the football.
I mean, the Dolphins' second longest drive went 53 yards, resulted in a turnover on downs, and that drive came when the Chiefs scored their final touchdown and decided to go and prevent and said, there's no real way this Dolphins team is going to score. Like, this Dolphins offense couldn't do anything, and to everyone's like point, all the talk about the Dolphins' injuries and everything leading up to this game, that's on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, they are working back in a Jalen Waddle, a Raheem Mostert, but those guys still played in this game. Those guys had an impact in this game. Their offense was fully functional. They had no answers for anything that Steve Spagnuolo was doing. He had their head spinning from the start of this game. Every time the Dolphins tried to do a different motion or pull out some kind of gimmicky little play, the Chiefs were kind of all over it. And when the Dolphins got out of their scripted plays, which was essentially just getting guys leaking out late to the flat, that offense hit a brick wall and didn't do anything for 2.5. I mean, literally nothing for 2.5 quarters. It was one of the more dominant displays of defense I think you will ever see in the playoffs when you consider what Mike McDaniels, what he's done this year, what he's done in his career as an offensive coach, what this Dolphins team is. This team scored 70 points in an NFL football game this year. 70. They scored 21 points in 2 hours of gameplay versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and they scored 70 in one game this year. That was a insane display of defense from all the players. But I mean, I think you start with Steve Spagnuolo. He was the very first play. They came out with a 5-man surface with Leo Chanel playing as like a 5-tech. I'm like, okay, what this man's got stuff coming for the rest of the game, and it only got better from there.
Yeah, absolutely. They got into a 3rd and long where they brought out the 3-3-5 defense, which we have seen this year, but never on 3rd and long. And I went, oh man, what's going to happen here? Ends up in a penalty for the Dolphins. So they back out, they go back to a normal dime. But on the interception, you had, and I encourage you all to go find the dots. I'll try and tweet them out later if you haven't seen them. But you had a rotation from a single high look where they swapped these two guys. The up safety rotated deep, and then they rotated back around. Like it was like an orbit motion in the secondary on the Edwards. It was wonderful. It's part of the reason why. I mean, the Miami Dolphins averaged 6.5 yards per play on the season. Yes, they weren't great down the end of the season, but that's season long, 6.5. They had 4.3 today. You guys, they had an 8% third down conversion rate. Not 8 conversions on third, 8%. They were 1 for 12 on the day. They could not do anything against Steve Spagnuolo's defense until right at the end of the game when they went prevent, and a singular play where Trent McDuffie did not play particularly well, against Tyreek Hill. One play. And that'll happen against the Tyreek Hill. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch. Mike McDaniel is going to be seeing ghosts of Steve Spagnuolo for the rest of the offseason. He ruined this offense for him earlier in the season, and he ruined it even worse in a playoff game. Just what a performance.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, and I'm looking at it right now. Tua Tagovailoa, outside of a horrific throw that he does not deserve a touchdown on, but Tyreek Hill made an incredible play, and Trent McDuffie had, probably one of his worst snaps of the season. Outside of that play, Tua Tagovailoa went 19 of 38 for 146 yards. That is 3.8 yards per pass attempt. That's just ridiculous. Just absolutely absurd. And I mean, yeah, they had him lost. I mean, just a brilliant game plan. Like they just had him scouted extremely well. Like I know Tua used his legs a couple times, which we're not really accustomed to him doing. And I think I believe had the longest run of his season. But they had him so dialed in because they were just like the 4th and 2. They had 2 edge rushers, no D tackles. They had Willie Gay Spag, and they double teamed Tyreek Hill at the line of scrimmage. And Trent made a great play on that little rub concept. But they were just they were throwing all kinds of stuff at him. They were throwing stuff against the wall. They were changing the picture for him a lot post snap. And he was holding on to the football. He didn't want to throw the football. He couldn't throw the football. When he tried to throw the football, the ball was sailing on him. And when he held onto the football, he was getting sacked. They had him just in a frozen hell today, and it was so fun to watch.
Listen, Tua, people get stuck in the semantics of a one-read quarterback. You don't need to go that far, but Tua, when the picture changes behind the play from pre-snap to post-snap, Tua plays significantly worse, and he holds the ball. And this is what Steve Spagnuolo lives for. And then you add on the fact that to start the game, Charles Omenihu was playing absolute lights out on every third down. And then as the game progressed, Chris Jones got better. George Karlaftis got better. The blitzes were getting... He never felt comfortable. And I think it started with that very first interception. Tua kind of got forced into throwing a fadeaway over Charles Omenihu, pushing a center back into his face, throws an interception. And from that point on, you kind of knew that the only time they were going to hit a deep ball was on a pure shot play like they scored on Tyreek Hill. But anything else beyond that football wasn't going beyond 10 yards for Tua. And it wasn't going to do so accurately. They knew it. They started throwing screen passes. The picture's changing post-snap. Tua's brain is short-circuiting. He can't figure out what he's supposed to do. He's patting the ball. He's panicking. Again, I don't want to say someone's a one-read quarterback because that stuff gets different. It changes all the time. But every single time the Chiefs changed what they were showing to from pre-snap to post-snap, you could just see smoke coming out of his helmet, and it just was getting nowhere. And that was what it was. The Dolphins' run game, which is something we got to talk about later, never got going. It was all on Tua's shoulders, and boy, he just completely fried.
The one read quarterback thing. It's like if you're right pre-snap, you can get through the progression. That's more like what Tua is. It's not a one read. It's if I'm right, I can get through
know where to go.
Progression.
Yep. And
exactly.
He knows it. everywhere to go. And the moment it changes, you see him pat the ball. And even if he still goes to the right place, he does it late. Or in this game, inaccurately. So like it's just they completely made the entire game go on Tua's shoulders. The run game, the Chiefs shut it down. They did not let the Dolphins get out in space. We talked about it on the pregame leading up to this. Don't let them run to space. Make Devin A-Chain and Rhea Mozart run through your bigs in the middle of the field. And outside of one series in the first half, they had no success trying to put the ball on the ground and run it. Just excellent job by the Chiefs all around. I think the defense played one of the most spectacular games I think you will see out of any playoff defense this year.
So I'm going to go back to what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks about what they've been doing with Nick Bolton pulling the linebacker off the field, the game planning aspect of this, kind of adjusting on the fly. Nick Bolton didn't come off the field. Mm-hmm. I mentioned that after they've made those adjustments in game for the course of the entire year so far, they have averaged 0.74 points per drive allowed after that moment. That is outstanding. With the full game plan installed today, 0.63 points per drive out of the Chiefs defense. Spagnuolo is so locked in right now and is throwing so much stuff at everybody. He knows exactly what it is. You heard Jason Garrett talk about it, which, by the way, announcing crew, not bad today. You heard Jason Garrett talk about it a little bit that, Steve Spagnuolo said, when we see him pat the ball, we know we got him. And he was patting that ball all game long because the picture was constantly changing. He was constantly giving a different look to the point that Mike McDaniel had to shorten the game up. And when they started going to those quick speed outs, those quick outs in the backfield there, guess what? As we talked about in the pregame show, or not pregame show, but the preview show, these DBs want to get downhill and hit. Nick Bolton wants to get downhill and hit. It was over. They ruined their offense. They really did, to the point where now you are going to have so many other defensive coordinators in this league. Everybody in the AFC West, every defensive coordinator that's out there is going to turn on this game and go, okay, we need to start rolling in some of this stuff. We need to start defending this Miami Dolphins team this way. You saw teams start to do it after Spagnuolo did it the first time in Germany. This was such a clinic that you're going to see so many of the concepts that Steve Spagnuolo just kind of sprinkled in throughout the day today, all over the place against the Miami Dolphins, against Mike McDaniel. He's going to have to do, what Sean McVay basically did after Bill Belichick owned him in the Super Bowl. He's going to have to go back and figure some stuff out because he can't come out with this same offense again. Everybody is going to tee off on it now.
Yeah, I want to wax poetic more about that, but we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Chiefs win in dominating fashion 26-7. And we just got done talking a little bit about, the Miami Dolphins having to live in the flat, trying to push everything vertically and just throw these little dump downs underneath because they had no answers whatsoever. And I want to say two things. This was not just about the weather. The weather played a factor, but this game was not just about the weather. Don't let anybody tell you. Everybody's on Twitter going, we all knew that this was the case just because of the weather. And, okay, I understand. It's cold for both of them. This is the fourth coldest game in the National Football League in the history of the league. I understand. But you know what? Cool. Yeah, obviously, maybe there's some wheels changing late in the game, but I want to credit the Chiefs for the way that they went around and hit that entirety of the game. I'm talking Nick Bolton flying around the field. I'm talking Lerius Sneed bopping Tyreek Hill at the line of scrimmage and establishing that physicality. Trent McDuffie bopping Tyreek Hill in the flat when they tried to dump it down to him. These dudes were hitting today. The aggression was there. The physicality was there. They played through all that. Who?
Shamari laid a couple big hits today.
Early.
Holy cow.
Early in the game. Yes. Right. Yeah, it was early.
So it was delicious. It was just a delicious experience watching this team. Maybe, they might have played the conditions better, but this dominance was not just about how cold it was and how the Miami Dolphins switched to the Cancun Dolphins in the fourth quarter. This was a good performance from the entirety of this team. And I think it's something we were all hoping we were going to see. Here's the hope Chiefs fans. Here's the hope. It's here.
I mean, yeah, the weather certainly played a role, right? And like, we don't have to go deep down that road, but like, you could just watch Jalen Ramsey had no intention of ever being physical in this entire game. And so there was a couple other Dolphins that did the same, right? Like, the weather played a role, but that's part of football. We're in January. It gets cold some places. Maybe you should have beat the Bills if you wanted to play somewhere where it was warm to where this wouldn't be an issue. But I don't think it mattered. I don't think you can watch this game and come away and say, oh, this one thing, weather, this one thing, injuries, this one thing, penalties, whatever it may be, made the Chiefs absolutely destroy the Dolphins from start to finish in this game. It was a beatdown. They dominated the Dolphins just as much as the Texans did the Cleveland Browns, even if the scoreboard will not tell you that story, right? You had to watch the game. You had to be there. You had to see every single drive for the Chiefs was positive. Every single drive, sans one for the Dolphins, was nothing. Literally nothing. You could just hit fast forward and you wouldn't have missed anything. You could have taken a piss break. You could have gone and got snacks. You would have missed absolutely nothing besides Dolphins offensive players getting blown up in the middle of the field. And they'd be like, do I really want to be here? So like, it was an excellent performance. I always will have my doubts that defense will win Super Bowls, right? I don't think football is trending that direction. However, the Chiefs offense started to show some life in this game. So when you pair that with a defense that played this well against this opponent, she's got something working right now. If they really did flip a switch to the playoffs, they have something working.
I will say this. One last thing about the weather. The weather didn't snatch Tyreek Hill's soul on that George Karlaftis snap. That on his sack, his solo one. That was Lerius Sneed, by the way. He buried him. That was exactly the way that this entire game was. That's what it was.
You're not doing it justice, because right before that play, he pump faked him and made Tyreek Hill get a false start penalty because he stepped forward. He baited him into it, and then he gave him 2 for flinching, like a little, we're not going to say it, but he gave him 2 for flinching and getting the false start penalty. It was the most poetic series of events that could have ever happened.
It was incredible. He buried him. He put him in the dirt. If there's anybody that's going to complain about the cold, it's going to be Tyreek Hill for finding out how cold that grass was as Lerius Sneed buried him in it. It was obscene. They were the more physical team on both sides of the football. We're going to switch to offense here pretty quick. They were the more physical team on both sides of the ball. They wanted this way more than Miami ever did. And they stole the life from this Miami Dolphins team early in this game and often. There was at no point in the second half that I ever thought that the Miami Dolphins might try and mount a comeback. It was over. Like they didn't want to be there. They didn't want to play football at the same level as the Kansas City Chiefs. It has been a while. Maybe since that Bears game earlier this season that you were just so confident in the ability for not just this defense to shut it down, but for the offense to not make a back-breaking mistake that then allowed, the other team back into it. It just wasn't happening. So for the first time, it felt like a Patrick Mahomes offense. It felt like this Steve Spagnuolo defense on steroids. It really was incredible to watch a truly complete performance, or as complete as we're going to get from this Chiefs team this year. It was really, really fun to watch the whole thing.
It was an absolute delight. And let's get to the offensive side of the ball, because I know like there's always this but kind of moment with it, but I think largely I feel very good and happy about what we saw on the offensive side of the football. How often they lived in the red zone, putting points on the board, racking up those points, even though it wasn't all in the form of touchdowns, and really continuing to extend that lead. I mean, winning by 19 and 26 points from the offense, I think that's going to do a lot of, I think 26 points is going to be enough to win a lot of the playoff games that they're going to be playing this year, just how good this defense is playing. And I think, there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about the offense after watching this game, and some of the stuff we hoped that they were going to build on, after that, some of the things that they did against the Bengals, living in the red zone in that game too.
I mean, there was a lot of positive. I want to look at Bumpa's super chat here. Just like Donovan Smith, I thought he played a good game, and we'll have to see as the challenges get more difficult for the Chiefs offensive line going forward. The Dolphins were obviously injured. So Yes, the offensive line played great, and that led into the Chiefs' offense overall playing really well. And I thought Patrick Mahomes played one of his better games of the year. I mean, he looked phenomenal in this game. He had every answer for every single play until the very end where there was the intentional grounding. Like, there was a couple plays at the end where he finally seemed like he got beat a little bit by what the Dolphins were doing, but he had this offense humming. They had all of the right answers for what the Dolphins were doing until they hit the 20. We don't need to dive down the red zone rabbit hole too far right now.
No.
They really need to figure out what's going on there. Hey, hopefully it's that one of the end zones were overly iced and they couldn't do anything about it or something. Like, maybe that's an issue for some of it. There was some red zone issues, but they could get the ball down the field. This is the best this offense has looked in a long time. Everything was working. They didn't connect on them, but McCole Hardman was getting open vertically. He just was playing the football terribly or quitting on routes, but like, he was getting open downfield. Rashee Rice was the best player on the field.
Yes.
If not one, I mean, like, he's right up there with Mahomes as being one of the best players in the field. Travis Kelce played great, and that includes drops, which like aren't completely out of character for him, but as many drops as he had are not within characters. Like, this offense is this close to looking like they figured something out and can really get rolling here in the playoffs. And you just hope they can parlay this performance against a Dolphins team, which does not have a playoff depth chart on the defensive side of the ball right now,
do not
into a performance next week in the divisional round, whoever they end up playing, right? You hope they can roll all of this over. This confident Mahomes, this Mahomes playing at an A+ level, Rashee Rice becoming a featured guy that's not just catching screen passes, but also getting downfield, Travis Kelce looking more spry, McCole Hardman at least taking the top off defenses, even if he's not catching the ball, and pairing that with a run game that is at least dangerous or something you have to respect. You put all of those pieces together and you just remove some of the craziness of the red zone, some of the bad red zone play. You have a complete team that's rolling right now. So I think it was a very promising performance from them all, none more so than Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice went 9 for 138 and 2 touchdowns. Wait, I'm sorry. There was a Jawan Taylor penalty on that play. 8 for 130 and 1 touchdown. He was absolutely outstanding. He really was. He was terrific all day long. He's the guy that they needed. Like, you look at the target share for this, it is embarrassing for everybody not named Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice had 12 targets, hauled in 8 of them for 130. Travis Kelce has 10 targets, hauls in 7 for 71. 3 that weren't caught were all drops.
Drops 3.
Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Nobody else had more than 3 targets, and that was McCole, who had the 3 targets. 2 for the most for everybody else. The offense was funneled through Isaiah Pacheco, it was funneled through Travis Kelce, and it was funneled through Rashee Rice. And going into this game, yeah, you would think that that's probably going to be the case. Andy Reid's going to scheme some stuff up, probably going to lean heavier on guys like Pacheco that have been here before, guys like Travis Kelce that have been here before, try and get Rice into the game a little bit. And all they do is just keep feeding him the rock, and he just keeps rewarding this offense. And it was incredible to watch. He got him out of a couple of long third downs that they needed some help, with a guy. And it wasn't just that. Early on in the game, that very first drive of the game, the Chiefs got themselves into a 3rd and 10 because of a Kelce drop and then a poor throw by Mahomes on 2nd down, a 3rd and 10. They didn't see another 3rd down that entire drive. We haven't seen that from this Chiefs offense in forever. Like, they were just consistently ahead of the sticks. They were converting on early downs consistently all the way down the field. It wasn't explosive plays. It was just getting the ball down the field methodically. And it looked like how it should look based on what we thought against this Miami Dolphins defense. But there was always that kind of little bit that was holding us back from just being like, yeah, they should dominate this team. They really should dominate this defense, because we've seen them not play well so often this year. And really, in between the 20s, like, you couldn't ask for anything more from this offense than what they gave us today.
Hey, make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you're leaving your comments. We're trying to get some of those up as this thing's going on, as we all celebrate. We talked about Rashee Rice, a couple things. I thought, Rashee Rice, I think that was the most mature game that we've seen from him too. I thought, doing a really good job, one of those big catches over the middle of the field, working away from his zone defender. I thought doing a really good job looking for the ball when Patrick Mahomes was hot with a free rusher against a blitz, being ready for that. And just ball security. I think he did a good job securing the football, catching it, didn't have a drop. He also did a good job protecting the football after the catch, too. And so there was a couple little contentious moments there for him. I just thought that was a really mature moment for him that I thought was pretty impactful. This stat from Next Gen Stats, Jordan Foote just tweeted it out. Per Next Gen Stats, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes had a 130.6 passer rating when targeting Rashee Rice tonight. 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown for the rookie in his first playoff game. And like, you know, I think if I was Vic Fangio and I had the ghost of Chiefs edge rushers past playing for me to try to slow down Patrick Mahomes, I don't think I hated the idea of let's blitz Mahomes and try to make these skill players try and be
Great plan.
I think it's a really smart. idea. You know,
should have bailed on it a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And if you bring the pressure from depth, you are playing into the run because you're not going to overrun your rush lane. So you're stopping the Chiefs from getting to run the ball a little bit by adding guys late. Like it was quite literally probably the best thing they could do with, again, the ghost of Chiefs past defensive rushers. The problem was Patrick Mahomes just had their number every single time. And so did Rashee Rice. And here's the other stat for Rashee Rice that DraftKings didn't want you to know. He finished with over double the receiving yards of Tyreek Hill. If you listened to the KC Lab earlier on the game preview, you made yourself a little bit of money going for that because Rashee Rice had more receiving yards than Tyreek Hill. That was, I don't know, my prop, I'm guessing, for that right there. And so he doubled him up.
Where would you find that prop, Maddie? What?
Somewhere deep in this noggin, I guess.
No. Where would you go to make that bet?
No. I'm not going to let Maddie answer the question. Okay. I think we're going to have Tucker D. Franklin answer that question, aren't we, Tucker? Let's bring Tucker on.
The guy who originally made this bet happen.
Read it now.
Hey, guys. Look, I don't want to take any credit for anything, but DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs, is bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Look, Chiefs don't know who their opponent is right now, but you know you can count on DraftKings Sportsbook to give you the best lines possible. And you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Back to you, Kemp.
Thank you, Tucker. Head coach Andy Reid on rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice. This is a quote Jordan Foote has here. The best part about him is he keeps working. He's got Pat's respect, and he wants to do it the right way. I do think like Rashee Rice has just continued to get better and better and better as this thing has gone on, and I think you saw that again today. We talked about how this team funneled through their best players, especially early. You saw them hammering Rashee Rice, hammering Travis Kelce, hammering Isaiah Pacheco. Those are your 3 best players. Sprinkled in a little bit Mecole Hardman, tried to get him in a little manufactured look, tried to throw the ball down the field. But I do want to say one thing about some of these pass catchers and some of these much maligned pass catchers that we've talked about. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 1 catch. Richie James, 1 catch. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not maligned, but 1 catch. All 3 of those, I believe, were first downs. Were third down plays for first downs. Big plays for all 3 of those guys in the opportunities they had. A little Bronx cheer for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But I think this is the formula, right? You put the ball in the hands of your best players and you sprinkle in some opportunities here and there for a few of these other guys. And so in the limited opportunities, good on a Marquez, good on a Richie James. I think Richie had 1 drop, but he did have a catch right back at it later. Oh. And good on Clyde Edwards. And no, it wasn't a drop. It was Richie James getting PI'd to death Never mind.
Okay, that was Richie James
He's
playing
that
small.
ball.
You guys,
Yeah.
That was
no.
Richie playing
No.
small. Okay, you talked about it, and this kind of wraps into a couple other points here. This is from Jeff Darlington, Chiefs coach Andy Reid on Patrick Mahomes had a nice day. I don't think the Dolphins anticipated us throwing the ball as much as we did. A lot of quarterbacks can't do that in this type of weather. First of all, shots fired. Shots fired.
It's true.
100%. But two, they're not wrong. The Chiefs did try to run the ball, right? And their running backs averaged just barely over 3 yards per carry. It wasn't a dominant performance on the ground, much like it usually is for the Chiefs. I think early in the game, Isaiah Pacheco had some good runs that kind of set the tone. I think later in the game, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had some really big runs and picked up big first downs. But everything in between was just kind of ho-hum. And that's been the Chiefs' run game all year. It looked like they started out with some more gap stuff, and it was kind of taking its toll on the Dolphins' defensive line, the linebackers. And as the game went on, they got into a little bit more zone, and they didn't have as much success with it. But this team, and then the Dolphins started blitzing all the time, right? They started adding more guys to the fits. Like, I don't care about the lack of not success, but efficiency running the football. I think it mattered for this game, but they really did run the offense through Patrick Mahomes and negative 24-degree feels like weather, and the wind's blowing, and they said, hey, we're going to drop back over 40 times in this football game and still control the ball, control the game flow, and do whatever we want. I do think that matters. This team just understands who they are, what they are at all times. And this year, we haven't always felt that, but this game kind of felt like it. They knew what they needed to do until they got to the red zone to win this football game, and they did it on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they did. And it was fun. It was fun because, again, like, it's just, it looked different. It felt different. There was confidence. There was fun. There was fun being had by this Chiefs football team. And once again, we talked a little bit about this last week with Chris Jones, hunting for that sack, trying to get that sack so that he could get his big bonus in week 18 there. And how excited and fun everything was on the sideline after he got it. That carried over this week. Like, listen, it's miserable conditions out there. It was bitter cold. Shout out to all the Arrowhead because it was loud in Arrowhead still. Like, hey, props to everybody that was there. I mean, it was so cold that Patrick Mahomes' helmet shattered. They had to put on a different one. That's how cold it was. And yet, there was a moment in the fourth quarter where everybody was swag surfing. Everybody was having fun. The whole stadium was having fun. It has been not fun this season at times. It's been fun on the defensive side of the ball, but it's not been as consistent. It's not been as fun. And this offense having the ability to move the ball through the air, Patrick Mahomes playing very well, Travis Kelce playing pretty well and making some stuff happen. That spin off of Eli Apple for the first down was incredible. What a performance by him. A rookie Rashee Rice coming out there and punishing this secondary that didn't want to hit him so that Isaiah Pacheco could also run into that secondary that didn't want to hit him. And Patrick Mahomes could run into that secondary that didn't want to hit him. Just fun. It was just a really good time to watch a Chiefs game. And typically we get those, later in the regular season. It's one of those week 16 games the Chiefs kind of handled. This was a playoff game. This was a game that mattered. If they did not win this, they would go home. And there wasn't an ounce of stress or tightness of anybody on the Chiefs. They were playing loose. They were playing well. It just seemed like everything was going well outside of just like we can nitpick some few things there, but it was just still so fun to watch.
Yeah. And so it's going to sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth a little bit for saying like the weather wasn't a factor in the Dolphins losing. It wasn't the factor. And there were some things that, obviously Tua was objectively a lot worse in the weather, but he still was cooked pre-snap and he was cooked post-snap in a lot of different ways. I think, I don't think Travis Kelce's dropping 3 balls next week. I'll say that. I don't anticipate that happening. I don't know if that was a little bit of weather or not. There were 0 touchdowns scored in the IC end zone. If you weren't at the broadcast, no touchdowns were actually scored in the end zone that was iced over, and they were worried about even being able to see the inbounds line, being able to correctly see the back line. So, maybe some of the play calling in the red zone and on that side of the ball was a contributing factor. The Chiefs put the ball in the end zone twice in the non-icy end zone. They tried to screen play that Maddie and I have talked a little bit about in the DMs a little bit. We'll probably talk about more of that on the lab. A couple quotes from Andy Reid as well coming in here. Andy Reid on Lerius Sneed. I'm having a hard time believing there's another cornerback as good as him in the league. That is absolutely correct. The whole Patrick Mahomes helmet. Go. You guys,
I was saying, I just feel like we should spend a little bit more time on Lerius Sneed here, because once again, he's not shadowing, right? They move Tyreek Hill around so much, you can't follow him everywhere, but he's getting lined up with Tyreek Hill a lot. We talked about him putting him in the dirt as like a statement on the game, but his coverage, his play, rep in and rep out, continues to be absolutely phenomenal. He's breaking up passes intended for non-Tyreek Hill players. When he is matched up with Tyreek Hill, he's getting physical. Yes, the Chiefs protect him by putting a little bit of help over the top of him. And guess what? We kind of saw in his touchdown why you have to do that. So it's insane to me that this man did not make an all-pro team the way he's been playing. You have so many stats that back it up. The eye test shows it. I don't know what else he can do to get more recognition than what he did. And I think overall, this Peacock broadcast of a football game was actually pretty good. Like they handled commercial breaks well. The broadcast team was fine. But I wonder how many people got to see this, because you can't come away from this game and see and be like, oh wow, Lerius Sneed is a non-all-pro level cornerback. Anyone that watched this game has to know how good he was at the end of it. So I'm glad they are continuing to talk about it. I'm glad he got a little bit of shine throughout the game from them showing replays, or just when he got a chance to go up and make a play. He made some big hits late in the game. It was another fantastic game for Lerius Sneed, and it will be super impressive if he continues this. Whatever matchup they have next, he's going to have another top wide receiver to go up against, whether it's Nico Collins for the Texans or Stephon Diggs. That's kind of unfair to call them two the same, because Diggs is woo. But he's going to have a good matchup again, and he gets a chance to go out there and show what he can do once again. And it's just week in and week out. It's been years since we've seen a cornerback follow wide receiver ones the way he has this year. It's crazy to me that the NFL did not recognize that in literally any fashion this year.
It's fucking travesty. That's the long and the short of it. Lerius Sneed is first team All-Pro, and he should be. Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot now. Patrick Mahomes on his helmet.
Excellent.
I got in the huddle and everybody was telling me that it was shattered. He said I wasn't coming out of the game, and it was definitely a first. And then on his backup helmet, the backup helmet was frozen. He said he needs to talk to somebody about, where they keep the backup helmet.
A negative 27-degree wind chill. Yeah, we definitely should have talked about a backup.
They worked through a backup helmet at that point. That was the funny thing you were saying. They were working through to get into. Patrick Mahomes on playing in the frigid weather. It was windy. I thought the guys did a great job of getting open. You have to be mentally tough. The Chiefs were unequivocally the most mentally tough team in this game, and now they potentially could get a lot of rest and a rest edge over who they are playing. They're going to have a rest edge most likely over whoever they play, unless they're playing the Houston Texans coming to Kansas City and having to be a mentally tough team. Yeah. And then it's about even. So it'll be interesting. There. But Patrick Mahomes says it was cold. I'm not gonna lie. That's from Mackenzie Nelson there as well. Oh man. Anything else you guys want to get onto?
The ESPN's Dolphins reporter. I just had it up here and I forgot his name. I'm so sorry, but tweeted out that the Dolphins were missing 5 starters on one side of the ball, and if you watch the game, you may not have been able to tell which side.
It's true. The Chiefs outclassed that team in every way, shape, or form, and now Eli Apple can go Joe and Jamar.
Was Chase quarterback one?
Hey, look, you want to know something? Skylar Thompson looked better in the playoffs last year than Tua did this year. If you remember,
you're not wrong, but that discredits what Steve Spagnuolo did, though. You're not wrong, but it discredits what Steve Spagnuolo did. The man had guys playing ring around the rosy. We all remember the ring around the rosy offensive play. This man had his safeties playing ring around the rosy pre-snap, just so Tua had no clue where to throw the football, and then he just ends up fadeawaying up all over the middle of the field. It's just Steve Spagnuolo cannot get enough credit for what he did through everything throughout it. We kind of started the show with it, so I think it's probably the best that we kind of close this part with it. It's just he knew what the Dolphins did, right? They want to run the ball. They want to get the ball out wide, and he was able to take away the speed to the outside, whether that was how they were fitting the runs, whether that was who they were using as their force defenders. They were taking away all of the outside runs from the Dolphins. And that did lead to the Dolphins being able to leak some guys out into the flats early on in this game out the backside, because it's kind of hard to take away both sides at once versus this much speed. But as the game went on, you can't build an entire offense out of leaking tight ends and running backs into the flat late. Eventually, you're going to have to play real football. And as soon as the Dolphins had to do that, they could just find no traction. There was nothing that they could sit there and call and comfortably and reliably, confidently in that huddle and say, we're about to pick up positive yards. And that's because they just didn't seem to have a good feel of what the Chiefs were going to do on any given down. And that was Steve Spagnuolo. We talked about it leading up to this. Every year he elevates his game when they hit the playoffs. The thing is, they're coming from a middle of the pack defense. They're coming from a just outside the middle of the pack, maybe a below average defense. And they elevate it when they hit the playoffs and become a top 10 type unit, a top 5 for a single game unit. Here's a defense that is top 5 already. And it was a little bit of a question. Is there a step to take? Can there do more? Is there anything left? Buddy, there was a lot left in the tank. Steve Spagnuolo just pulling out some of the wildest shit you've ever seen and just saying, here, deal with this. And Mike McDaniel and Tua didn't really have any answers for it. So I cannot wait to see who they play next week, what kind of answers they might have, because there's going to be so much more to it.
Hey, real quick, Bones Jackson said, I thought the post-game show was going to be at the distillery. So the party at Holiday Distillery was canceled due to weather. We might be there next week. We're still working out some details there, but make sure you're keeping an eye out on all the KCSN social media. I'm sure if you're subscribed to the KCSN Substack, you'll get an update to that as well. So there, we're working through some stuff. We were bummed that we had to cancel last week's. We are looking at some possibilities to maybe do something out there next week. Patrick Mahomes on his scramble that got his helmet cracked. I was trying to score. Young Pat would have gotten in there. I'm getting a little old.
He's 28.
Listen, let me tell you, as a fellow youth, you do start to lose. It starts to get a little bit difficult to bounce back from some of that. And that cold, too. Like, in that cold, trying to bounce back from some of that stuff, I get it. I feel his plight.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, though. It's fun. Like, they're having fun at the podium right now. They're having a good time. They're messing around. Andy Reid's talking about how the worst possible thing that could happen is him losing his mustache with all the icicles on there. Like,
that was a lot of ice.
They're swag surfing.
This was fun. It was so fun. It's nice to have fun football back again. Oh my goodness. And in a playoff game, no less.
The vibes are real high. And I think we officially got to, you don't want to play the Chiefs territory. Whoever lines up against this team next week is not happy to be running into Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I can tell you that much. I cannot wait. But Buffalo will feel like Florida next week compared to what this team just had to play in.
True.
Bring it. And a rest edge. It is time for some Ben Holiday bourbon, though, because it is toast game. Let's party. Let's see here. Craig, who you got? Toast game.
You're making me go first. I want to shout out our guy.
He's going to cheat.
I am going to cheat. I want to shout out our guy, Primetime Rambo here. Dropped a super chat in here, said there was not one link on the Chiefs defense in this game. Hell of a job. It's the entire defense. I am cheating and stealing all of it. You can boo me all you want. You invoke Patrick Mahomes like every other week. So you chill. No, this defense was so good against an explosive offense and a team that if you let them hang around, and with Mike McDaniel's, IQ and the way that he game plans and things like that, they could have done something here. And from snap one, it didn't matter. Like Steve Spagnuolo, every single member of this defense, Derek Nottie went out hurt, and Mike Pennell steps in and has himself a hell of a game out there. Willie Gay Jr. had a terrific game. George Karlaftis had an awesome game. The entire defense was elite all night long. And so what Maddie was saying, we weren't sure if there was another step up because they've been so good. Guess what? There was. And so, yeah, big toast to this defense for not just what you did in the regular season, but the playoffs. Whole defense.
Roughly 25 players. Shout out.
Absolutely. Need to check the numbers. It might be 24, might be 26 right now.
Hey, Tucker, do you have one that you might want to jump on and share with us, buddy?
Yeah, I have one. Ken's just a coward to read the private chat, so he doesn't know whatever's going on in the private chat. I've got one. I was watching this game, and with these conditions, it's very easy to get hurt, right? It's very easy to suffer injuries. One team did have a lot of injuries going into it, but the Chiefs dominated on one side of the ball, on both sides of the ball, on all three phases of this football game. You know why? Good health.
Good health.
So good health.
Good health and staying warm.
I just wanted to get my sweatshirt on the show, actually, is why I wanted to come on.
You killed it, buddy.
Yeah.
Great job, Tuck. My best friend here. Maddie.
Well, since Craig unfortunately took Charles Omenihu, who I was going to lead this with.
Yeah, I didn't say his name on purpose so that you can take him.
You did it. I am going to go with Charles Omenihu. I'm going to go with another defender because I think I do agree. The entire defense played well. I think George Karlaftis is going to get a lot of praise. Lerius Sneed's going to get a lot of praise. Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, Mike Edwards for always being in the right spot. And these guys all should. Nick Bolton, shout out Nick Bolton, one of his best games of the year. All these guys should get their credit. But I think that Charles Omenihu, because he doesn't show up in the stat sheet right away when you go looking for it, is going to get a little bit glossed over. And I don't know if through the first 3 quarters, he wasn't their best defensive player there for a while. He was constantly getting pressure. He was in at the face of Tua all the time. He was the guy that was making Tua move off of his spot, adjust his throwing angle over and over and over. So yeah, I'm going to go with Charles Omenihu. I think he had a really strong showing, and I think he constantly gets pulled out of graphics for not being a starting defensive lineman for the Chiefs based on stats. You gotta put some respect on his name. He's very clearly like one of their top 2, at worst 3 defensive linemen. Charles Omenihu matters. He matters a ton. I think you saw that early in this game when the Chiefs defense was really first starting to set that tempo.
Salute. I want to toast to any sicko that went out to Arrowhead tonight and stormed and braved that weather.
Hell yeah.
You guys rule. Some people have been priced out of Arrowhead because of how expensive these games are. And I know some of you use this as an opportunity to go out and be at Arrowhead. I hope you had an incredible time. I hope you stayed warm. I hope you had fun. I know that was a lot of fun watching that game. The Chiefs absolutely dominating the Miami Dolphins, now the Cancun Dolphins. But salute to you. Also, we're gonna go Patrick LaVon Mahomes because he was unbelievable today. You know, we talked about playoff Pat and how good he was before the high ankle sprain, and goes out and still plays outstanding, the rest of the playoffs, last year. Well, he's healthy. He's playing well, played awesome today. I thought he did great. The Dolphins, they tried to heat him up in the cold. They tried to get some body blows on him in a freezing cold environment. And he just went out there and continued to throw with his chest, throw with confidence, and guys went out and made plays for him. A lot of good vibes here. There's some stuff we'll talk about here, I'm sure, on the KC Laboratory later, next week, early next week. Make sure you're checking out that. But I think there's just a lot of reasons for optimism. I feel good. Nobody wants to play the Kansas City Chiefs anymore. We're back, baby. Got that swagger back. Y'all know I'm going to be talking with my chest this week because I started on Friday or on Thursday, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, that was Toast Game brought to you by Ben Holiday Bottled in Bond Bourbon. Take it away, Tucker. Ben Holiday would have been like a perfect just
Oh my god.
warmer upper for anyone going to Arrowhead. I'm sure. That would have been. I'm warm
Can I
now,
get one more toast game?
huh?
Can I get one more toast game?
Yes.
Sure.
Toast game to everybody not wearing a Buffalo hat like Tucker D. Franklin is right now, where the D stands for a Buffalo hat. It's just
All right, I gotta clear
absolutely-
my name. I can't just stand idly by and
It's
let
not
my
a
name
Bills
be slandered.
hat.
I'll take it off. I'll take it off right now. Got to shout out KC Buffalo Company, kcbuffalo.com. Go check them out for the best meat around. Buffalo meat, really good. Have you not had it? Go try it. KC Buffalo, they're the best. Presenting
Hey.
sponsor of the best.
They are the best. They are the sponsors of the best. Matthew.
It's not me. Beef of the week. The chat and Tucker D. Franklin's hat.
That might actually be a beef of the week. Yeah, I know I keep leaving and coming back, but that might actually be a good one. Don't beef with me.
Go
Anyways,
ahead.
thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight on a Saturday night, enjoying the Chiefs' first of what we believe can be, 4 playoff wins this year. I think everything's on the table. There's a lot of reasons for optimism. We're going to break down all the things that we saw, a little more detail later in the week. Because, we'll know the opponent the next time actually, I don't know if we will the next time that we start this show.
Probably not.
It'll be right up against the wire. Because the Bills will be playing on Monday. The Buffalo Sabres are playing tonight. The Buffalo Bills will be moving their game to Monday. Anyways,
all over.
Nope, that's gonna do it for the the KCSM postgame show. Thank you all so
Dolphins.
much. Enjoy Cancun, Eli Apple. We'll catch you later.
It's KC Buffalo Company. It's a